The case of the Phoenix Lights began on an evening in March of 1997.
Late breaking. You're watching News 15 at 10.
Do these lights belong to visitors from outer space? Hundreds of people across the valley think it's a distinct possibility. Good evening, I'm Mark Bailey.
And I'm Robin Sewell. Thanks for joining us. We start tonight with those strange dots of light that were the talk of the town.
As reported, multiple UFOs were sighted throughout the Phoenix Basin. Numerous eyewitnesses were already outside looking up into the night sky to catch a glimpse of the Hale-Bopp comet. Michael Tanner is part of a team of investigators who received roughly 800 reports from eyewitnesses regarding the Phoenix incident.
Between 8:15 and 8:45, we had enormous craft at varying altitudes come right through the center of the Valley of Phoenix, led by a formation of orbs that were clearly visible through most of the state.
It passed right in front of us, just about right above eye's length. My estimate of the size of the craft from the nose as it passed us where we lived to the end of the left wing that passed in front of us was over 5,000 foot long.
It's coming across the sky, and as it's moving, it's blocking and unblocking the stars. There is actually a shape. It was actually 5 lights that were a V, 1 in front and 2 on each side. And it was perfect. It was a perfect triangle.
The object we saw, if we opened up a newspaper, you could not block out the object that we saw.
People say, Mike, no, you saw a B-2 bomber. My response was, we could land all 40 of our B-2 bombers on the wing of that craft.
He says, you're not going to believe what I saw. And I said, yes, I would. I said, that's all that's been on the news all night long is this craft.
Explanations have been tossed about that they were flares, that there were planes flying in formation. But Mark and Robin, we checked with the FAA today, we checked with Sky Harbor, and we checked with Luke Air Force Base, and there's been no official explanation of those strange bright lights last night.
Truck driver Bill Greiner was driving south on I-17 towards Luke Air Force Base. He witnessed several fighter jets scramble to intercept 2 UFOs directly overhead.
I pulled my truck alongside the West Silos, which faces Luke Air Force's base, was like right there, and I was here unloading. Everything was completely quiet. It was like really eerie. There was one right over the base, and then there was another one out toward Wickenburg. And these things were just hovering. They were huge orbs, but it didn't make no sound or nothing. It was just hovering right there over the base. All of a sudden, I hear a lot of roaring coming out of Luke Air Force Base, and here there's 2 fighters coming out, and they had the afterburners on because there were huge flames coming out the back of these things. Ripped right around the back of me and shot right for those things. Then it disappeared on them, and it was just gone.
The military says the lights over Arizona last night were flares, but the people who saw the lights last night say they couldn't have been flares.
In central Phoenix, in what is known as the Sunny Slope area, the Lay family were coming home in the early evening to watch for the Hale-Bopp comet when they witnessed a very large craft fly directly over their house.
You know, because when the craft went over, I really focused on the light. The tip was right out in the street, and the arm is going by, and the end of the arm was at least to that mountain over there. It was 600-700 feet away, with these huge lights set inside of it.
And I look inside, and it's like, it's wavy. When you look down the street on a hot day in Phoenix, above the street's like, it's really wavy, and you see everything kind of distorted, and that's what it looked like up inside the middle of the craft.
And it just skimmed by, didn't even make a sound, not even a sound.
Further eyewitness testimony came from Stacy Rhodes and her daughter Emily, who both saw a giant craft fly over their car.
It was gunmetal black. It wasn't shiny. It wasn't invisible. It was more of a dull bluish black color.
And we both just stayed there and looked at it for a couple minutes, and it was completely silent.
Mike Fortson spotted the same craft from his backyard in Chandler, a suburb of Phoenix.
When you're looking to the north towards Phoenix proper, the lights of the city of Phoenix and Tempe and Scottsdale and all these here will form a gray background. And this was a black object coming through a gray background. We had no problem whatsoever seeing this vehicle. We knew it wasn't really ours because it was just too doggone big. As a matter of fact, profoundly massive is a better way to describe it. We don't really have words in our language to describe something that large. It was huge.
Councilwoman Frances Barwood was approached by a reporter who complained about the lack of response from local government regarding the sightings.
What this reporter said was that they had gone to every level of government, including the city of Phoenix, and nobody would talk to them. That this object went from north of Prescott, from Paulding, all the way down to Tucson, and then was also seen in Wickenburg. And nobody would give them any answer. They either told them that they were not going to talk about it at all, or that there was nothing, that nothing happened.
Responding to mounting pressure from his constituents, Governor Fife Symington held a press conference.
Oh, I'm going to order a full, investigation of this through DPS. We're going to make all the necessary inquiries, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to find out if it was a UFO.
Later that day, Governor Symington held an unscheduled live press conference to announce that they had discovered the source behind the Phoenix lights.
And now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. Now, this just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.
Well, I think everybody pretty much laughed at it. I thought it was really disgusting. He was just dismissing everything that these people had seen and said, just like we're all Looney Tunes. I just thought that was a really improper attitude for somebody in his position.
Nobody in state, local, federal, military, nobody wanted to talk about it. They didn't want to interview witnesses. They said it didn't happen. They said it didn't concern them. There was one councilwoman, Frances Barwood. She's the one that spoke up and said, why don't we investigate? And then when it came time for her election, she lost. And the press, the media, everybody else was really trashing her bad.
Why is everybody so afraid? And the only thing I can think of is, one, they're afraid of their careers, which, comes to a point of what's more important, your soul or your job, and I guess to them it's their job. And the second thing is the scorn factor.
It was over a mile long. Now I'm talking about from the point of the craft to the end of the wing, not just from wingtip to wingtip, but from just the length of the wing itself was well over a mile long. There's no question in my mind about that. That was one of my first reactions, and I even said during the sighting, I said that son of a bitch is over a mile long. And it was quite phenomenal, it really was. It changed our lives totally.
There was an enormous object hovering over Phoenix, Arizona for an hour and 40 minutes. They did computer analysis of what they had on the video cameras, and they determined that this object was 2,000 yards across. I predict you're going to see a lot more of that, because our friends, our family, I think, are going to continue to up the ante, slowly, gently, in a non-threatening kind of way.
This took place in Arizona. An unidentified pilot, according to the press cuttings, flying near an airport in Arizona with his son when he spotted 6 lights in the night sky. So he called from the airplane to air traffic control to say, I'm seeing these lights here. I wasn't expecting any other planes. They're none supposed to be on my landing path. Can you tell me what's going on? They said there are no other planes. He said, I'm seeing 6 bright lights coming towards me. Mystery unresolved.
Except, tail number for that plane was Bonanza 2 Tango Sierra, and I was the pilot. No way. Oliver and I.
Yes, doesn't say that in the briefing.
Oliver and I.
Or I should have read to the end.
Yeah. Oliver and I were flying in. I was flying him to go see his girlfriend, and we were on approach, and I saw 6 lights over the airport in absolute uniform in a V shape, and Oliver said to me, I was just looking at him, and I was coming in. We're maybe a half a mile out, and Oliver said, "Pa, what are those lights?" And I then it kind of like came out of my reverie, and I said, "I don't know what they are." I said, he said, "Are we okay here?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna call him," and I reported it. And they said, "We're not painting anything. We don't show anything." I said, "Well, okay, I'm going to declare it's unidentified, it's flying, and it's 6 objects." Mm-hmm. We landed. I taxied, dropped him off, took off, went back to L.A. Never said a word. He never said a word. I never thought of it. 2 years later, Goldie is watching a television show when I came home.
Yeah.
And the show is on UFOs. But as I came home, hey, honey, how's it going? And I'm kind of hearing the TV going, and I stopped and I started watching, and it was on that event. Now, that was the most viewed UFO event. Over 20,000 people saw that. And I'm watching this, and I'm feeling like Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's like, why do I know this? You know what? And it's not clear to me. And finally, I said. Then they said the pilot reported it. A general aviation pilot reported it on landing. I'd never thought of it since then, and I said, "That was me. That was me." And I said, "Wait a minute. I'll go to my logbooks." So I went to my logbooks, and there was the flight at that time, and I didn't mention anything about the UFO. The fascinating part of that to me is that it just went literally out of my head. And Oliver never mentioned it. And had I not seen that show, I'd have never thought of it again.
Amazing.
And that, to me, was the weird part.
Believe it now, Chris?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm convinced.
It's just unidentified. It's just unidentified. It's flying, and it's
an object.